Trung is 28 this year, working as a real estate agent in District 5. He has a calm, gentle personality but is a bit reserved. After struggling in Saigon for a few years, he finally saved up enough money to start looking for a place of his own. One hot, stuffy afternoon, while Trung was typing up a price list for a client, his phone rang. It was Uncle Vin, a familiar face in the business, with a voice that was a mix of northern and southern accents. "You're looking for a house, right, Trung? I've got a small place right in the center. Good price. If you like it, I'll let you have it." Trung asked, "What district is the house in, Uncle?" "District 3, in an alley off Nguyen Thien Thuat Street. At the end of the alley. Number 8, 2 floors, clean papers. The owner had to move abroad urgently, so he's letting it go cheap." Trung raised an eyebrow. "That house number sounds strange. Number 8 but at the end of the alley?" "Yeah, way at the end. I'll tell you up front, not everyone dares to live there." Trung laughed. "What do you mean? Is it haunted or something?" Uncle Vin gave a half smile. "I didn't say that, but if you've got time, go check it out. If you don't like it, that's fine." That afternoon, Trung rode his motorbike to the address. Alley number 8 was quite narrow, only wide enough for 2 motorbikes to pass each other. Houses were tightly packed on both sides. Elderly folks sat outside enjoying the breeze. Kids rode bicycles and played. Everything seemed normal, like any other alley. Only the house at the end looked different. Its walls were covered in green moss. The iron gate was slightly ajar, and above it were 2 floors with a small dusty balcony. It looked like someone had just left a few months ago, but the air felt unnaturally cold. Trung parked his bike and gently pushed the iron gate. "Anyone home?" No answer. He stepped in, his sandals squeaking against the yellowed floor tiles. The inside was modestly furnished. An old wooden sofa set, a small altar cabinet in the middle of the living room, and a few faded black and white portraits on the wall, so blurry you couldn't make out the faces. Suddenly, slow footsteps echoed from upstairs. Trung turned sharply and called out, "Uncle Vin, are you upstairs checking the house already?" Silence. The footsteps stopped abruptly. Trung craned his neck to look up the stairs. The fluorescent tube light flickered a few times and then went out. The space was suddenly bathed in dim, eerie light. He whispered to himself, "Damn, forgot to bring a flashlight." At that moment, a very soft voice came from the upper floor. "Don't come up. This house doesn't welcome visitors." Trung took a step back. "Who's that? Who's up there?" No reply. Only a faint breeze blew down the stairs, carrying with it the scent of half-burned incense and a chill like it came from inside a freezer. Just then, Uncle Vin called back. Trung answered quickly. "Uncle, someone's in the house. I think it's a family member who stayed behind. I heard a woman's voice coming down." Uncle Vin's voice turned firm. "Stay right there. Don't go upstairs. I'm on my way." Trung was surprised. "Why, Uncle? I told you to wait. I warned you. This house has history." The call cut off. Trung stood in the living room, heart pounding. On the wall, the black and white photo he hadn't looked at closely earlier now seemed to have been turned upside down. The face in the photo was even blurrier now, but in the dim light, it looked like the woman's eyes were wide open. Trung froze in place. The light bulb kept flickering like there was a short circuit. The wind blew down from the stairs in waves, ice cold, laced with the scent of incense and mildew. A very soft click came from behind. Trung flinched and turned around, only to see the front door had closed on its own at some point. Even though he was sure he hadn't touched it, he swallowed hard. Must be the wind, but deep down, he knew, wind couldn't blow outward from inside the house and shut the door like that. And it certainly couldn't have turned that photo on the wall. A motorbike horn honked outside the alley. Uncle Vin appeared, breathing heavily, his face pale. "You okay?" Trung answered, eyes still fixed on the stairs. "I heard someone, a woman's voice. I didn't go up." Uncle Vin frowned and pulled him out of the house. "Come on, let's talk outside the alley." Sitting on his motorbike seat, Trung asked straight out, "Tell me the truth, Uncle, what's going on with this house?" Uncle Vin stayed quiet for a moment. then lowered his voice. Last year, a middle-aged couple bought that house. They lived there for less than 2 months before the husband jumped from the upper floor. The wife lost her mind, started talking to the wall day and night. After that, her family had to commit her to a hospital. Since then, the house has been abandoned. Trung frowned. What made them do that? Uncle Vin shrugged. No one alive knows. But the neighbors said, every night they heard dragging footsteps inside the house. A child running around the room. And especially, there's always a shadow of someone standing on the second floor, looking down, even when the house is empty. Trung shivered. Then why are you still trying to sell it to someone else? Uncle Vin sighed, exhausted. I'm not hiding anything, but you said you wanted a cheap house. So I showed you one that's priced accordingly. Whether you move in or not, that's your decision. Trung looked back at the house. The wall on the second floor was green with mold. The second floor window was slightly open, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed like someone was standing behind the curtain, just stepping back into the shadows. That evening, Trung told everything to Tam, a close friend and coworker. Tam clicked his tongue. Are you out of your mind? Thinking of buying that place? Trung replied, deep in thought. I don't know. It feels like it's pulling me in. And weirdly enough, when I was inside, I didn't feel scared. I just felt sad. Tam burst out laughing. Sad? That place is as cold as a tomb. The photos look like they're staring straight into your soul. You feel sorry for the ghosts or what? Trung shook his head. No, I think whoever died there didn't rest in peace. Something's not right, like a lingering injustice. Tam stood up abruptly. Don't go thinking about that stuff. If you really want to live there, at least bring in a spiritual master to take a look. Or clear out all the old stuff inside, especially that ancestral altar. Don't touch it unless you know who left it there. The next morning, Trung went back to the house again. This time, he brought a small camcorder, planning to record the inside and review it later. He went through each room, from the ground floor to the second floor. But just as he stepped onto the stairs, the camera let out a static buzzing noise and shut off by itself. Trung took out his phone for light and walked slowly. The second floor had 3 rooms, a master bedroom, a smaller room, and a storage space. He gently pushed open the master bedroom door. Nothing seemed out of place. Except, on the bed, covered with a white sheet, there was a clear dent, as if someone had just gotten up. Trung froze. He stepped closer and touched it. The blanket was still slightly warm. A soft knock-knock came from behind him. Trung spun around. The door had shut itself. No one was there. No footsteps. No wind. But Trung could feel it. Someone was standing in that room with him. His voice trembled. Who's there? No answer. Only a cold hand lightly brushed against the back of his shirt, then vanished like mist. Trung fumbled to open the door and rushed downstairs. His heart was pounding, but his legs didn't tremble as he expected. A strange feeling crept into his mind. Yes, he was scared, but he couldn't pull away. He sat down at the base of the stairs. Taking a deep breath, sweat clung to the back of his neck. At that very moment, the camcorder he had left under the table powered back on, its red recording light blinking. Trung muttered, "What's wrong with this thing?" He walked over to turn it off when the small screen flickered for a few seconds, showing the upstairs hallway from earlier. But strangely, in the footage, a woman in a white dye was standing right on the balcony, staring directly at the camera. Trung jumped. I didn't record this? He rewound the footage. Same time, same angle, but the next clip was empty. No one there. Just a few seconds later, the video blurred and then deleted itself. That evening, Trung told Tam everything. The two were sitting at a small drink stall near the park. Tam frowned. Are you sure no one edited it? Trung shook his head. I just filmed it. Memory card was already in the camera. I didn't touch anything. Tam slammed his hand on the table. Forget it. I don't care how cheap the house is. Don't mess with it anymore. Trung looked up, speaking slowly. But I still want to know who that woman is. Tam snapped. Are you crazy? You said you saw a woman in a white dress, knocking on the door, touching your back, and you think that's a person? Trung stayed silent. After a while, Tam's voice softened. Be careful. If anything else happens, don't hide it from me. Trung nodded slightly, but his eyes remained distant. That night, Trung couldn't sleep. He reopened some old videos on his device, rewinding and replaying the glitched clip over and over. But everything was blank. There was nothing there. At exactly 3 a.m., his phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number, containing only one line. Don't sleep. Go upstairs and check again. Trung shuddered. He rushed to the balcony and looked around. No one. The boarding house was completely still. He texted back. Who is this? No reply. Right then, his wardrobe creaked open, even though Trung clearly remembered locking it. He stared directly into the dark inside. Nothing. But a faint scent of burning incense drifted through, the same one from the house. Trung dropped his head onto the table, heart pounding. The next morning, Trung arranged to meet Uncle Vin at a coffee shop, determined to get answers. Uncle, who was the previous owner of that house? Uncle Vin looked around, then lowered his voice. An old lady named Ju. She lived with her teenage granddaughter. The old lady died of a stroke inside the house. And the girl? Then what? Uncle Vin sighed. They say after the funeral, the girl locked herself in the upstairs room. Didn't come down for 3 days. When people finally checked, she had hanged herself in the master bedroom. Trung sat there, frozen. Uncle continued. The old lady used to wear a white owl dye. The girl was quiet, rarely spoke. No one knows why she did it. Since then, the house has been locked. No one cleared it out. No one dared live there. Trung asked softly. The graves of the old lady and the girl, do you know where they are? Uncle Vin replied quietly. I heard they were buried in Bin Hung Hua Cemetery. But I don't know the exact location. Why? Trung shook his head. It's nothing, Uncle. I just wanted to offer some incense. That night, Trung dreamed of a pure white room. Inside, a young girl in a school uniform sat with her back turned, long hair covering her completely. He stepped forward to speak, but the girl slowly turned her head. Her face had no eyes, no mouth, just a blank, featureless white space. Trung screamed, but in the dream, no sound came out. At that moment, a freezing hand rested on his shoulder, followed by a clear, youthful voice. Don't try to find. Everything has already been buried. Trung woke up around 4 a.m., drenched in sweat, the collar of his shirt clinging to his skin like something had been choking him. The round light bulb in the room flickered non-stop, then suddenly went out. Only a faint blue light from the street lamp outside filtered in through the window. He sat up, holding his head in his hands. I dreamed of her, that girl, Trung muttered, overwhelmed by a mixture of fear and sympathy. In the dream, she hadn't seemed angry or hateful, only trapped. Like she was waiting for someone to recognize her. He opened his phone. No new messages, but the old text from the unknown number the night before had disappeared. He whispered, no one sent it, or was I dreaming? That afternoon, Trung decided to return to house number 8 for the 3rd time. But this time, he brought a bundle of incense and some joss paper. Standing in front of the house, Trung spoke softly, his voice low and respectful. I mean no harm. If anyone still lingers here, please allow me to enter and offer incense. No response, but the hot wind from the alley suddenly turned into a cool breeze brushing across his face. Trung nodded slightly. Thank you. He stepped inside and lit 3 sticks of incense, placing them in the old brass censer left on the altar. In the hazy smoke, the photo of old Madame Ju became clearer, a thin face, eyes gentle but deeply sorrowful. Trung whispered his prayer. Grandma, I've heard the story. If there's truly something left unresolved, please allow me to help. I only want to live here. I have no bad intentions. The incense quivered lightly in the breeze. Suddenly, the altar cabinet made a soft clacking sound. The bottom drawer cracked open just a little. Trung looked, then slowly knelt and opened it all the way. Inside was a small notebook, wrapped in aged red cloth, along with a bundle of old handwritten letters. Trung opened it. Purple ink, careful handwriting, a diary. The first few pages recorded the life of the grandmother and her granddaughter after they moved in. simple but peaceful. But the further he read, the more the handwriting became shaky, erratic, and strange entries began to appear. She keeps talking to herself in the room. She refuses to go outside. I hear her humming lullabies every night. She said, the man in the mirror is teaching her to play hide and seek. Trung stopped when he reached the final page. It was torn, but a few hastily scribbled lines remained. If anyone finds this, please help her. She doesn't want to leave. She only wants her mother to come back. Trung folded the notebook, his hands trembling slightly. The sunlight through the window wasn't warm enough to chase away the chill crawling through his spine. The next day, Trung returned to Bin Hung Hua Cemetery. Following a few notes Uncle Vin had given him, he finally found 2 graves lying side by side. One headstone read, Nguyen Thi Du, passed away in 2019. The other had no name, only the words, the girl 14 years old. No photo, no birth date, just a single faded artificial flower lying silently beside it. Trung lit incense and sat quietly under the harsh midday sun. He said nothing, just bowed his head for a long time. A sudden gust of wind swept past, carrying the scent of incense mixed with soil. At that moment, from a distance, a middle-aged woman stood partially hidden behind an almond tree nearby. Watching Trung, before he could say anything, she turned and walked away. A strange familiarity filled him, as if he had seen her somewhere before. That night, Trung dreamed of a small room. The girl in the school uniform was sitting in the center of the floor. This time, she was facing him, and her face now had eyes, but only deep black hollows. And cracked, dry lips. She said, Brother Trung, don't leave. Trung stood still, frozen. He tried to stay calm. What's your name? She lowered her head. I don't remember anymore, but I've been waiting for Mom. She went out to buy cakes and never came back. He asked gently, Is there anything else you want? Can I help? The girl looked up, and tears of blood streamed from her hollow eyes. Keep me here, so I have somewhere to play. Trung was at a loss for words. He nodded slightly. At that moment, the girl smiled. But it was a smile without joy. She whispered, Then, you're not allowed to leave anymore. A shadow fell across his back. A freezing hand wrapped tightly around his shoulder. Then Trung jolted awake, drenched in sweat, chest aching like something had pressed down on him. On the table, the red cloth-wrapped diary was still there. But this time, a small white flower lay at the center of the open page. The next morning, Trung sat for a long while in the coffee shop at the alley's entrance. His eyes fixed on the old notebook resting on the table. He gently touched the delicate white petal that had mysteriously appeared overnight and silently wondered. Who put it there? It was a real flower. Tiny, like a wildflower, with a faint scent, and Trung was certain the desk had been completely empty the night before. Tam's voice called out from behind, pulling Trung back to reality. Are you even listening to me? Trung looked up. Sorry, I was just thinking. Tam sat down, handing his friend a can of drink. Yesterday, I talked to old Master Phuoc, the guy who performs rituals near the village shrine. He said your house isn't right. That land used to be an old orphanage a long time ago. There was a massive fire. No one knows if remains are still buried there. Trung flinched slightly. I thought only the grandmother and the girl died in that house. Tam shook his head. Maybe the old lady didn't know about the land's history. But what's strange is, you said that girl only wants to stay. Never tried to scare you. Like, she just wants someone to play with. Trung gripped the drink can, his voice lowering. I think she hasn't found peace. She stayed behind waiting for her mom. But everyone ignored her, locked in that room for years. Maybe she was abandoned even when she was alive. Tam looked at his friend without a word. The fear in Trung's eyes was now replaced by something else, compassion. That night, Trung returned once again to house number 8. This time, he brought colored paper, markers, candy, and 2 small dolls. He laid everything out in the middle of the living room, lit candles around, and gently called out, Hey little one, I know you're still here. Today I brought some toys for you. I don't want you to be sad anymore. If you want to play, go ahead, I'm not afraid. The sound of the neighbor's TV came through the wall, then went silent. The wind outside stopped completely. The air inside the house thickened. Trung sat patiently and waited. Half an hour. Nothing happened. He sighed, stood up, and began to pack his things. But when he turned back toward the altar, the two dolls had switched places. Trung froze, then smiled softly. So you're ready to play now? Huh? Strangely, he felt at peace. A week passed. No more strange dreams. No messages. Trung officially moved into house number 8 and began renovating it little by little. Though he still occasionally heard the sound of slippers on the stairs, or soft lullabies from the second floor, Trung wasn't afraid anymore. He had learned how to live with that presence. Tam came over to visit. Half joking, "This house has got 2 people living in it now." "Huh?" Trung replied, voice calm. "Yeah, but the other one just needs peace. Someone to hear her, that's all." Tam looked around. "You planning to stay here forever?" Trung nodded. "I think I'm okay. No one's trying to hurt me. In fact, maybe I'm saving something that's still stuck here." Tam let out a breath. "As long as you're healthy and sane, I'm good." That night, Trung lit incense at the altar, placed the 2 dolls on the glass shelf, then sat down and sketched the second floor room from memory. He planned to repaint the walls, change the light bulbs, and leave a small corner to set up a study desk, like a child's room. As he began shading in the window frame, a soft giggle echoed down from upstairs. Trung looked up and gently asked, "Do you like it?" No one answered, but the pencil suddenly rolled over and stopped right on the sketch of the little study desk. Trung smiled. "Then tomorrow I'll buy you a new desk." No sooner had he spoken than the curtain on the second floor gently swayed. Early the next morning, Trung was awakened by someone softly calling near his ear. "Brother Trung, hey, Brother Trung." He sat up with a jolt. No one was there, but in the hallway, the light had been turned on. On the wall, several crayon drawings had appeared, a sun, a house, and a person standing next to a doll, holding a cookie. Just below it, a crooked line of text had been scrawled. "I'm very happy." Trung sat in silence for a moment. Then he softly replied, "Okay, that's enough then." It was now the 3rd week since Trung had officially moved into the house at the end of alley number 8. The place was cleaner, brighter, even some neighbors had started dropping by to chat, no longer avoiding the house like before. Only one thing remained: no one dared go upstairs. One morning, Mrs. Hai, who sold sticky rice at the alley's entrance, smiled and said, "Mr. Trung, your house is all fixed up now." "Huh? But don't go stacking anything up there on the second floor." "You hear?" Trung asked. "Why's that, ma'am?" She just pursed her lips and scratched her ear. "Well, folks talk. I don't know for sure. Back then, someone moved in, and on the first night, they heard knocking from upstairs. The next day, they ran off and left everything behind. Honestly, if heaven lets you live here in peace, you're lucky already." Trung gave a slight nod and said nothing more. That evening, heavy rain poured down. Water dripped noisily from the metal roof into the back corner of the house. While Trung was busy placing basins and cleaning up, his phone rang. It was an unknown number. He picked up. "Hello?" A soft, female voice whispered on the other end. "Do you remember me?" Trung froze. "Who are you?" But the line went dead. Immediately, the light on the second floor turned on, then off. The sound of tiny footsteps, like a child's slippers, gently echoed across the old wooden floor. Trung grabbed his flashlight and slowly made his way upstairs. The second floor was still dark, filled only with the scent of incense and damp wind. He stepped into the room that once belonged to the girl. It had since been cleaned, repainted, furnished with a small study desk, and the 2 dolls neatly placed on a shelf. Near the window hung a new curtain, sewn by Trung himself. He spoke gently. "Did you call me? It's raining hard. Don't stand too close to the window or you'll catch a chill." No answer. But one of the dolls fell from the shelf. Trung bent down to pick it up, then saw on the floor a black ink mark shaped like a small handprint, with all 10 fingers clearly visible. Startled, he looked back at the wall. A new message had appeared. "Mom, I'm hungry." Trung bit his lip. He slowly stepped out, went to the kitchen, and brought back a bowl of plain warm porridge, placing it gently on the study desk. "Eat up. No one's going to let you go hungry ever again." He pressed his palms together, whispered a sincere prayer, then quietly left the room. That night, for the first time, Trung slept deeply, and in his dream, he saw the girl standing in the middle of the courtyard, wearing a clean white outfit. Her face was still pale, but there was no more blood from her eyes, no more hollow sockets. She smiled, her voice light as the breeze. "Thank you." "But," Trung asked gently. "But what?" She lowered her head and whispered, "You'll have to leave soon." Trung startled. "Leave where?" The girl pointed toward the house, where the light behind it was slowly fading. "This house, it's not just mine. Many are still waiting." He turned and saw the door open. In the darkness, many childlike figures stood silently behind the bars. No faces, no sound, only dim, haunting eyes. The girl stepped back, her voice growing fainter. "Each one has a story. Each child carries a sorrow." Before Trung could take a step, the entire house plunged into darkness. Then a scream ripped through the silence of the night. He jolted awake, heart pounding. In the corner of the wall, a new drawing had appeared. 7 shadowy figures standing behind barred windows. Each shadowy figure had a disturbingly distinct feature. One was missing arms. Another had no legs. One had a severed head. And another had 2 eyes as black and bleeding as spilled ink. Trung whispered, "She's not the only one." 3 days later, Trung went to see Master Phuoc, the elderly man Tam had mentioned before. The master glanced at the drawing, then said, "That's old, lingering resentment. That house sits on cursed ground. But the first girl, she's not evil. She's still attached to this world, hasn't moved on yet, and is holding others back. But the others, they're not that simple." Trung asked, "Is there a way to help them?" The master shook his head. "Helping one is easy. Helping all of them, that's a different matter. Some don't need to be freed, they just want to be remembered. But some, they don't want to leave, because they don't even realize they're dead." Trung clenched his fists. "If I stay, live a good life, is it possible too?" The master cut him off. "Be careful, or you might trade places with one of them without even realizing it." That night, Trung lit incense and knelt before the altar, staring at the drawings that now covered the wall. Faces of children with no names. Forgotten by everyone, but still here, waiting for someone to call them home. He spoke, "I'll be leaving soon, but tonight, if you want to play, play all you want." Wind swept through the window. The candlelight flickered wildly. One of the dolls turned its head toward him. And from the second-floor hallway, the sound of small footsteps echoed again. Slow and steady, stopping just behind him. Trung didn't turn around immediately. He remained kneeling, breathing steadily, eyes fixed on the small altar in the corner of the room. The scent of incense was no longer sweet, it had turned sharp. Acrid, like the smell of burning hair. He asked softly, "Is that you?" The breeze in the hallway stopped, but the light bulb above blinked once. Trung slowly stood and turned. No one, only a tiny footprint, clearly imprinted in the dusty floor tiles. It walked forward, and stopped right behind him. He swallowed hard and whispered, "What's your name? Can you tell me?" In response, he heard a series of small footsteps coming from the 3rd floor. 3rd floor? According to Uncle Vin, the house only had 2 levels. The 3rd was an enclosed attic, sealed long ago with concrete. But clearly, someone was walking up there. Trung cautiously climbed the stairs, flashlight trembling in his hand. The door to the attic was blocked by a large wooden board, nailed with rusted spikes. He pushed, wood creaked and gave way as if it had been waiting for someone to touch it. Behind was a small, low-ceilinged room, pitch black and suffocating. No windows, only a moldy stench and something strange, a foul blend of rotting rats and burnt incense. He shined the flashlight inside. A study desk, a worn-out pillow, a pile of decayed old toys. And on the wall, hundreds of markings drawn in charcoal and dried blood. Trung stepped in, The flashlight started to flicker. He read each line. "Don't leave me. Has Dad come home yet? No rice today. My stomach hurts. Someone, please talk to me." Trung stood frozen. His chest felt like it was being crushed. He recognized the handwriting. It matched the shaky scrawl from Madame Du's diary. But it wasn't her who wrote it. It was the girl. She had been locked up in that attic. No one knew. No one heard. Right then, a freezing chill swept past the back of his neck. Trung spun around. A little girl stood there, holding a doll with a broken neck. Her hair was tangled, her face obscured by shadow. He softly asked, "Is it you?" The girl said nothing, just held out the doll, pushing it into Trung's hands. As he received it, her whole body dissolved into a cloud of smoke and vanished into the darkness. The flashlight flared once, then went completely out. All that remained was the sound of faint sobbing coming from every direction. The next day, Trung decided to report it to the local police, asking them to inspect the attic. The officers found, buried behind a crumbling wall full of drawings, a small set of human remains, loosely wrapped in an old towel. Forensics confirmed, the bones belonged to a child, around 13 years old, estimated time of death, about 5 years ago. No one knew who the child's parents were. Only Trung, when he saw the doll that fell out of the towel, recognized it. It was the very first doll that had turned its head to look at him on his first day in the house. After completing all the official procedures, Trung set up a small altar for the girl. For the first time, he gave her a name, not certain it was right, but at least it was a voice calling her back. Little girl, daughter of house number 8 inches. The neighbors gradually returned to their normal routines. People no longer heard lullabies at night, and the second floor lights no longer flicked on at midnight. Trung also began preparing to leave. He told Tam, "I've stayed here long enough. Maybe it's time she found peace." "And me too." Tam nodded slightly. "I respect you for even lasting this long." Trung smiled. There's nothing scarier than being forgotten. 3 weeks later, a young family moved into house number 8. They had a little boy, about 8 years old, and a daughter in 3rd grade. Everything went smoothly at first. The kids played in the yard, shouting and laughing, but after just one night in the house, the next morning, the whole family rushed out at dawn with their belongings. The little girl sobbed as she told her parents. The girl in the wall asked if I wanted to play hide and seek. That night, on the 2nd floor, a small light flickered on, and soft lullaby singing echoed once more. Mom went to buy cakes. Has she come back yet? Hide well, don't let anyone find you. 3 days after the family fled in the early morning, the neighborhood began buzzing with old stories again. House number 8, long rumored to be haunted, was now causing even more unease. Ms. Sao, who ran the corner grocery store, said bluntly, "That house already has a spirit child living there. Not every living person can stay in it." And Mr. Ba, the motorbike taxi driver, added, "Any house where you hear kids running around upstairs at midnight, lights turning on floor by floor, and the front door swinging wide open by morning, that's bad news." People stopped walking by at night. Even the kids were warned by their parents. When you come home from school, take the long way, don't pass house number 8. By now, Trung had left the city and was temporarily living in the countryside with his mother. One afternoon, around midday, he received an anonymous text message, just a single blurry photo. It was a photo of house number 8, the front door wide open, but no one in sight. And in the center of the image, in the darkness behind the bars of the 2nd floor window, a faint figure of a child could be seen standing and watching. Trung's heart pounded. He replied to the unknown number, but no one answered. That night, in his sleep, Trung dreamed he was once again standing inside the house. Dim yellow lights, a hallway shrouded in silence. From the small room on the 2nd floor, the door creaked open. A little girl stepped out. Long hair, white dress, a doll in her arms. She looked up at Trung, didn't smile, didn't cry, just stood there, whispering. I waited, but no one would play. They all ran away. Trung stepped forward, but something seemed to hold his arms tight. The girl continued, You promised you'd stay and play with me. Trung choked up. I can't stay forever. You know that. She said nothing, turning away. Her figure slowly faded into the darkness. But then, behind him, another voice rang out, small, childlike, but very clear. What about us? Trung spun around. On the third floor, more than a dozen children stood silently behind the wall. Faces smeared, no eyes, no mouths, only tiny hands reaching out, as if wanting to grab someone. One whispered, "Play hide and seek with us." Another giggled eerily, "If you won't play, we'll come find you." Trung jolted awake in the middle of the night, drenched in cold sweat. Beside him, his phone had fallen to the floor, screen still glowing, no new messages, but in his photo album, a strange new picture had just been saved. A photo of Trung himself, sleeping, in the corner room of house number 8, and on the headboard, lay a doll with a broken neck, tilted to one side, staring directly into the camera. The next morning, Trung called Tam. "You free right now?" "Yeah, what's up? We need to go back to that house." "Are you insane?" "No, but this time, they're the ones who came looking for me." That afternoon, Trung and Tam returned to house number 8. The door was unlocked, dust everywhere, freezing air, and that familiar lingering scent of old incense still in the air. They stepped inside, flashlights ready, voice recorders turned on. Upstairs on the second floor, the small room remained just as before, but this time, the walls were completely covered. Not just children's drawings anymore. Portraits of adults, men, women, old and young, all standing with their backs turned. On the wall, a new message written in white chalk. "We haven't finished playing yet." Tam felt chills down his spine. "You see it now? It's not just one child anymore." Trung nodded and slowly stepped into the room. He placed a bowl of plain rice, a bowl of salt, and a few pieces of candy, then softly prayed, "Little ones, I'm an outsider. I'm not your parent, but if I can, I'll be someone who listens. I won't abandon you." The flashlight flickered once. The entire room sank into silence. Suddenly, from behind the curtain, a little girl's voice called out, "Brother, don't let anyone else in." "Why?" "They won't play, so we feel sad." Afterward, Trung tidied up the room and locked the attic. He hired workers to repair all the windows and installed security cameras in every corner of the house. Strangely, from that day on, there were no more strange incidents. No shadows, no lullabies. Children in the neighborhood started playing in the front yard again. Everything seemed peaceful. Until, 1 month later, another family moved in. They stayed exactly 3 days. On the 4th morning, they fled from the house under the pouring rain. The father stammered, "There were bloody handprints on the wall. And my daughter said she was playing hide and seek with a girl with long hair. But there's no one with that name in our house." The house was abandoned again. Each night, the second-floor windows swung open. A yellow light spilled out onto the alley, and if you stood at the alley entrance at midnight, you could see a row of small hands clutching the window bars, with eyes peering out through the darkness. "Brother Trung, we haven't finished playing." 1 week after the second family fled in fear, house number 8 fell silent again. Only occasionally, people heard bursts of eerie giggles from the attic, or lullabies softly echoing at noon, even as the sun blazed outside. Since his last return to the house, Trung no longer received strange calls. He moved back in with his mother, opened a small electronics repair shop in a quiet alley, and lived slowly, silently, like he was trying to forget the darkness that once clung to him. But some things aren't so easily forgotten. One day, a strange customer came into his shop. A young girl, no older than 12, with long hair, a wide-brimmed hat, a white t-shirt, and a speckled green skirt. She was silent for a long time, then asked, "Do you know house number 8? Trung looked up. The girl stared straight into his eyes, unblinking. "My mom told me not to ask. But I saw it in a dream, someone there was calling me." Trung froze. He asked gently, "What's your name?" The girl pressed her lips together. "They don't call me by name. They call me the new friend." Cold sweat broke out on Trung's back. The girl left behind a drawing, a floor plan of house number 8. But with extra rooms that didn't exist in the original. In each room, a child stood, no faces, only hands reaching out from the walls. In the corner of the page, a neatly written line read, "If anyone comes, don't let them stay, because we'll invite them to play forever." That night, Trung dreamed of the house burning. Not engulfed in flames, but smoldering smoke seeping from the walls. As if something decaying inside was bleeding. A familiar voice whispered in his ear. "You know now, don't you? It's not just one, there are many. They were all abandoned, and the house is the box, holding us captive." The next morning, Trung decided to return to house number 8 one last time. He brought 3 things, a bundle of incense, a blank notebook, and the old doll he had kept since his first day there. When he stepped in, the house was unchanged, but the air was thick, and the smell of ash hung everywhere. On the small altar, a stick of incense had already been lit, ashes fallen but not yet cleaned. Trung prayed softly, "If any of you are still stuck here, please tell me, how can I help?" Suddenly, from inside the house, the lights in each room turned on one by one. No one touched the switches. Trung stood in the hallway, feeling like he had stepped into a maze. Then, the second floor door creaked open. He walked toward it. In the room, in the center of the floor, was the blank notebook, now filled with writing. Page by page, names of children, over 30 names, with birth dates, death dates, and reasons. Starved, locked up for being bad. No one came to pick me up. Parents too busy with work. Died in silence. The last page, written in a different, clearer handwriting. Trung, 28 years old, the listener. He closed the notebook, heart pounding. And at that moment, from within the walls, dozens of small shadows emerged. The doll girl stood closest. She spoke softly, "Thank you for not leaving us. But we can't go." "Why not? We have nowhere to return to. So, this house is our forever playground." Then she smiled and tilted her head. "If someone else comes later, please tell them not to stay overnight." "Okay?" Trung nodded, choked with emotion. The house gradually faded into darkness. A wooden door on the 3rd floor creaked shut with a single click. 1 month later, a group of college students moved into house number 8, after failing to find anything cheaper nearby. On the first day, they posted photos online, excitedly writing, "The house is a bit old, but awesome. It has a balcony, windows, and every room has a friend." On the second day, they heard knocking from the attic. On the 3rd day, a neighbor saw the entire group sprinting down the alley in the middle of the night. Pale-faced, screaming, "There's someone in the wall! There's someone in the wall!" Since then, house number 8 has remained sealed shut. And every night, if anyone happens to walk by, they'll see the 2nd floor window lit up. Someone will be standing there, hair hanging long, with glowing red eyes staring into the alley. Never blinking, just watching, waiting for someone new to start the game all over again.